Hi everyone, my name is Andrew. I'm a doctor of physical therapy here at Limitless Therapy Services in sports medicine, and today we're going to go over ways that you can combat hamstring tightness and help prevent hamstring strains. In this video, we're going to go over the hamstrings and how to help with tightness that you may be having in the hamstrings, also ways that you can combat strains to the hamstrings. This is going to be extremely important, especially for those of you that are runners, maybe you're athletes, or maybe even active gym goers. So we're going to go over a few ways that you can train the hamstrings, and then also a few things that you may want to avoid when you're trying to strengthen the hamstrings or when you're trying to combat any type of strain that you may have developed. For those of you that are dealing with strains in the hamstrings repetitively, or maybe just tightness there, it's important to understand that the hamstrings are going to be essential for any type of running, jogging, cutting, and a lot of sporting activities that you may be participating in. Having great endurance in the hamstrings and good strength in them, not only concentrically, which is going to be more of your shortening phase of a contraction, but also eccentrically, so that muscle's ability to lengthen under load is going to be extremely important in trying to combat any type of strains in the future and also help to prevent a lot of tightness in the area. So today I'm going to go over a few movements that you can do that are going to help with the endurance of the hamstrings as well as loading them eccentrically to help you combat any type of strains or tightness you may be having. So when trying to train the hamstrings and improving endurance in the hamstrings, it's important to train them eccentrically. Eccentric loads mean that you want to focus on the lengthening phase of the contraction versus the concentric or the shortening phase of the contraction. A good way to start doing this is with doing a stiff leg or what's called a Romanian deadlift. Here I'm using a barbell, but you can use plenty of different types of equipment like kettlebells or dumbbells to perform the same movement. What I want you to start out with is a slight bend in the knees. I want you to push your feet into the floor like you're trying to spread the floor apart. And then you're going to focus on pushing your hips back so that way you feel pulling in the hamstrings. Once you feel that pull in the hamstrings, you're going to push into the floor and try to come up to the starting position. When doing this movement, I really want you to focus on controlling the way down and really getting that pulling in the back of the legs or in the hamstrings. And then working on coming back up, not arching the back or trying to use the low back to help do the lift. Start off with just a bar so that way you can get the movement down and then work your way up, for those of you that may have not done this before. Another way that you can help train the hamstrings, both eccentrically and concentrically, is starting in a bridge-like position. And with sliders, you can do a bridge and then work on extending the legs out, holding the bridge, and then bringing the knees back in. This is a little bit more of an advanced movement. And so if you're not comfortable with doing bridges, or you feel like you're doing this movement and you feel it in your back and not in the hamstrings, it might not be the right movement for you. But the one thing that I do like about this movement is that you can really challenge the endurance in the hamstrings, and you can challenge an isometric hold here by holding that bridge and going out a little bit and then really slowly working on coming in, maybe even holding that position there, coming in a little bit more, holding that position, slowly working your way out to get more of an eccentric control there. As you can see, I'm still holding this bridge and I'm still working the hamstrings. And so it's a great way to help with building some endurance, and it can be easily done from at home. So we've gone over a few ways that you can train the hamstrings eccentrically and also isometrically, but now I want to go over something a little more dynamic, especially for those of you that participate in any type of running. And so you can do this with the band, either anchored to a wall, a door, maybe a squat rack. And what I'm going to focus on doing is taking little hops up and down. As I take little hops, I'm trying to control my foot and not let the band pull my leg forward. This is going to challenge the hamstring muscles as well as the glutes a little bit as well to keep your foot in place. This is also going to mimic some of the phases of running as well. And so you can go ahead and start by taking small hops, and then once you feel more comfortable and are landing in the right spot, you can take a little bit of a bigger hop or move back a little bit so that you have more tension and go from there. This is something that you generally want to do for time, and so start with maybe 30 seconds and then work your way up to about a minute. Another way to help strengthen the hamstrings eccentrically is with using Nordic curls. These can be pretty difficult, but there's a few ways that you can modify them so that they're appropriate for you. The goal is to control the way down, and then once you can't control it anymore, try to come back up. Now you can use your hands to help stop you and then come back up, or you can use a stability ball or some other type of equipment. Sometimes people use foam rollers to help with assisting them on the way down. Then once you feel confident that you can go all the way to the floor and control yourself back up, then you can progress on to other ways of using the Nordic curl, maybe like using a weight or using a glute ham raise machine so that you can get a little bit more deficit and then control your way back up. So a few key points to wrap things up is remembering how the hamstrings work. Remembering that they're primarily going to help with flexing the knee and also extending the hip. You also want to remember that it's important to train them not just concentrically, which is hamstring curling, but also eccentrically, which is controlling and lengthening the hamstrings to help with building more endurance and also strength in the area. Lastly, it's important to understand that some of the exercises shown in the video are very advanced. And if you're having difficulty with some of them, or maybe even pain or discomfort, they might not be the right movements for you. And that's okay. You can always start with things that are a little bit easier and then work your way up to something like a Nordic curl. If you thought this video was helpful and want to see more like it, click subscribe or leave a comment below, or you could even follow us on Instagram for more content there.